Stay safe, reduce your contacts. Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. Waterford Minister of State Mary Butler has acknowledged the toll restrictions are taking on people's mental health. The Minister for Higher Education says capital funding for the Technological University of the South East is essential. And in sport, former Irish rugby international Gary Halpin has died suddenly at the age of 55. The extension of Level 5 restrictions is the only way the government can try and reduce the number of COVID-related deaths. Mary Butler says she acknowledges the toll restrictions are taking on people's mental health. But speaking to Damien Tiernan on Daisha today, the Waterford Minister of State says we cannot forget the 4,181 people who've died.
There's COVID fatigue, there's anxiety, there's depression. People are feeling so down at the moment. But I suppose the one thing I have to say, the government are trying to react to a once-in-a-lifetime, unprecedented disease that takes people's lives. When I think of all the people that are bereaved, 4,181 people are dead because of COVID. Those deaths occurred when the country was in lockdown probably for half of that time. Can we imagine what it would have been like if we hadn't put in place these really strong, rigid restrictions?
Some third-class students will return to classes next Monday under the government's plan for reopening. Mixed primary school student classes will fully attend school as guidelines are being issued from the Department of Education today. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
Schools will be getting advice today from the Department of Education on how to open up next week. One of the measures of clarity is that in split classes all students will return. So where a teacher has a mix of second and third class in one group, both years will return on Monday. Meanwhile, politically the reopening plan has been criticised. Labour leader Alan Kelly saying there's not enough there to give people any hope.
The people are in despair. I have never in my political career felt the despair as I have over the last number of weeks.
The Taoiseach Micheál Martin hit back, saying it would be disingenuous to give dates for reopening that they can't guarantee.
The suppressing of the virus, irrespective of form, doesn't change in terms of what we must do as a society. And data, we should be driven by data, not dates.
It comes as the Dáil is due to debate new mandatory quarantine rules for people coming into Ireland from certain countries this afternoon. Sean Defoe, Leinster House.
The principal of a primary school in Waterford City says they're really excited about reopening. Their junior infants, senior infants, first and second classes will be back in school from Monday. Breed Goldens from St John of God National School. She says the new variant is the big unknown.
How transmissible that may be. And I suppose the appeal from schools and those managing schools right now would be for parents to really abide by the guidelines, for the community to really abide by the guidelines, because when we open next week, we don't want to close again. And it's going to be very, very important that as a community that we all embrace the regulations.
An opposition TD from Waterford's appeal to people not to break COVID-19 restrictions out of frustration. 2 women have been arrested after a Dublin beauty salon opened for a second day in a row, despite Level 5 restrictions. The owner of C&N Beauty Rooms in Balbriggan reopened at 11, despite being ordered to close yesterday. Sinn Féin's David Cullinane told Damien Tiernan that he empathises with businesses.
Obviously, I would appeal to people not to break the law. But the way to avoid all of that is for the government to start getting the basics right. So the message that I delivered to government yesterday in response to their plan, and will again on the floor of the Dáil today, is that why only the half measures on travel? Go to full distance, put in place full mandatory hotel quarantine for all non-essential travel.
The current WIT campus is creaking at the seams, according to a Waterford TD, Marco Kohasik, has called for increased spending in the South East higher education institutes at the Oireachtas Education Committee. Since 2004, only 1% of capital spending has been allocated to colleges in the South East. The Green Party TD says a technological university of substance for the region requires substantial investment.
Minister, despite accounting for nearly 9% of the national population, the South East region accounts for about 5% of HE spend. The capital side is even worse. The South East accounted since 2004 for only 1% of capital investment in the sector. The existing WIT main campus, it's at capacity, it's creaking at the seams, and the build stock is depreciating. We really urgently need to expand the footprint of that campus in Waterford, and I think we have to acknowledge that a university of substance requires substantial investment.
Minister Harris says the government is committed to developing WIT's campus.
Capital funding absolutely is essential. I think this is even more essential, quite frankly, than the headquarters decision. It's much more essential. I want to dramatically expand the physical footprint of what now is Waterford IT and will soon be the Tuesday in Waterford. That means development. That means growing the site. You'll know some of the sites in question, so do I, but we best not name them here. There's processes that need to be gone through, but I am 100% committed to that, as are my department at official level, as is the whole of government right up to the highest level of the Taoiseach.
A Fianna Fáil councillor in Waterford says elected representatives haven't been consulted about plans for a St Patrick's Day festival. Waterford Council plans to spend more than €50,000 on an online event. As part of that, buildings across Waterford City and County will go green. Councillor Jason Murphy wants a level playing field for all festivals.
We have to look at every festival on its merits at the time, and it's extremely difficult at this time to hold a public festival. And I suppose my question is in relation to this. How can an online festival cost approximately the same as the traditional St Patrick's Day parade? That's what I can't understand, and I suppose I'm looking for answers on that.
The N72 near Lismore remains closed this afternoon because of flooding. Diversions are in place and motorists are asked to proceed with extreme caution. A company based in Waterford is one of a small number in the country that can store medicines at the temperatures some COVID-19 vaccines require. The product, manufactured by Pfizer-BioNTech, must be stored at minus 70 degrees Celsius. Q1 Scientific specialises in stability storage for pharma and is nominated in the SME of the Year category of Friday's Waterford Business Awards. CEO Stephen Delaney says it's unclear if the company will be storing the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, but it has the wherewithal to do so.
It's hard to say what level of involvement we'll have, but we would have a lot of capacity at minus 70. You're correct that the Pfizer-BioNTech product has to be stored at minus 70. And that's a tricky enough condition to work with. There wouldn't be that many facilities in Ireland that would have huge capacity or huge experience of working with it. So, as I say, we've been storing products at those conditions for a long time. We'd have a lot of experience in how to work with those conditions.
A National Reading Day takes place tomorrow. Ireland Reads is a new campaign and is working with several Waterford libraries to encourage people to take part in any type of reading. Participants can pledge how many minutes they want to spend reading on irelandreads.ie, showcasing how many people have read on the day. Tracy McEnany is a Waterford librarian. She says reading's become popular during the pandemic.
Because our libraries are closed at the moment due to COVID, more people have gone on to, I think it's increased by 150% the use of our e-books and our e-audiobooks. It's a total escapism. Books are absolutely brilliant.
Make the smart play with Virgin Media. Check out their smart home packages at Virgin Media, George's Street, Waterford.
Sponsors of the sports news on WLR.
Starting with rugby, former Ireland rugby international Gary Halpin has died suddenly at the age of 55. Halpin was a prop forward who played for Leinster, London Irish and Harlequins. The Kilkenny native was capped 11 times for Ireland between 1990 and 1995, scoring a famous try against New Zealand at the 95 World Cup. He also represented Ireland at the 1987 World Athletics Championships in the hammer event. To soccer, the Champions League last 16 action continues this evening. Manchester City play Borussia Mönchengladbach at a neutral venue in Budapest. That first leg game starts at 8, as does the meeting of Atalanta and Real Madrid in Bergamo. Tottenham Hotspur bring a 4-1 first leg advantage into their Europa League last 32 tie with Wolfsberger of Austria. That match has a 5 p.m. start at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. John Hartson urged the Celtic board to take their time in recruiting a replacement for Neil Lennon. The Armagh native resigned as manager in the middle of a disastrous season, with the Glasgow club 18 points behind arch-rivals Rangers in the Scottish Premiership. That put an end to Celtic's bid for an historic first ever 10-in-a-row league titles. John Kennedy will take temporary charge, but in the long term, Hartson has some candidates in mind.
It's important to get the right one in, get the right team in. There's names been mentioned like Eddie Howe and Steve Clarke, obviously the national manager, is a Celtic fan. Sometimes Celtic and Rangers tend to go for them type of managers who have an affinity with the football club. So for me, it's vitally important. Mark Hughes is out of a job. Eddie Howe.
Dundalk have announced the signing of former Derry City attacker Junior Ogedzi Oksawi. The 26-year-old Londoner scored 14 goals for the Candy Stripes in 2019 to finish top of the Premier Division scoring charts. While in snooker, Jordan Brown's back in action for the first time since beating Ronnie O'Sullivan in the Welsh Open final last Sunday. The Antrim native takes on four-time world champion John Higgins in the Players' Championship. That match in Milton Keynes is just underway. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media Water.